purpose of this video review, this analysis, all this stuff is in no way, shape, or form to throw shade on any parties. This is not videos not to throw shade on Stephen Cambion. It's not to throw shade on Lauren Pritchard. It's not to throw shade on Paranormal Hood Jiggy. It's not to say that Jiggy's right, Stephen's wrong. It's not to say that Stephen fucked up. It's not to say that Stephen fucked up, but his fuck up is excusable. It's just to talk about this when this interview happened. There was a woman named Lauren Pritchard who was interviewed by Stephen Cambion, friend Stephen Cambion, on his TruthSeekers YouTube channel.
Lauren Pritchard, Spirit Advisor, Child Rescue ATX Worldwide, baby mama to a space baby, time traveler.
So, and it is what it is. And here I am. Here I'm talking about it too. Here I am talking about it too. But not to insult Stephen. I love Stephen. Like, comment, and subscribe to Stephen Cambion's channel. Honestly. There but for the grace of God go I. You know what I mean? It can happen to anybody. But in the future, don't interview people like Lauren Pritchard. I don't think that it's necessarily, is gonna be good for anybody. You know what I mean? It's like the difference between, contemplating ordering a real doll and then discussing it accidentally on live stream because you're trying to give a hypothetical example of things not to say in public. I'm kidding. I'm making a joke. Jokes.
Doing a show on CW Chanter, following the video I just posted of him saying that, it's the difference between contemplating ordering a real doll and then accidentally discussing it. I don't even know if I have to do anything after that, but
you will see a link to that video below. I had no idea at the beginning of the evening who Lauren Pritchard even was. By the end of the evening, I knew, and I had said on Jiggy's channel, the blowout and blowback from this is going to be exceptional. This is going to be a topic of interest. This is going to be something that people are going to talk about. And there's definitely a lot of teachable moments here. I got to tell you. So I think the best thing that I can do is literally tell you from my perspective the kind of the history of how the night progressed.
Because this is a psychological war, isn't it? So I did listen to his synopsis of me, and I made notes, and it's quite a bit. This guy is a tall order of psychopath, and apparently space trash, pedophile, child murderer. He said it himself, did he not? Did he not say it himself? I'm asking. That's, is it an accusation? But like, CW, you said it. So what did you mean by that? Tell us, finagle something to explain away what the fuck you just said.
I'm kidding. I'm making a joke. Jokes.
On a very public platform. I don't think they care, though. I think they're arrogant. I don't think they care. That's okay. Zombies. You're dead anyway. You're as good as dead. I'm not going to kill you. I'm not violent.
But I'm not going to cover them because I don't want to be involved in, in any way, shape, or form with, like, mocking or abusing or making worse the life situation of a person who I believe, though I'm not a trained mental health professional, probably is suffering from some sort of, paranoid or schizophrenic delusion, to the degree that I have competency to understand what those words mean, and to assess whether or not I'm using them properly.
God, I hate this fucking guy.
So the difference between a targeted individual and someone who's suffering from paranoid schizophrenia is nil. The difference between someone who's quote unquote indigo child and someone who's suffering from autism or somewhere on the autism spectrum disorder is nil. So when there's people that I think, they're experiencing things that I'm not experiencing, but through no fault of their own, I don't cover them. You know what I mean? Because first of all, there's no point, because they're not engaged in any sort of, sustainable practice. They have access to the internet, so they're being themselves on the internet, and that's fine. But I don't want to be involved in mocking or making fun of them or anything. And there's nothing to dispute.
And not because he made a video insulting me. I don't feel insulted at all. This is a synopsis from somebody who is clearly a full-blown psychopath. And it's evident. So I'll explain it, because they want to call me crazy or whatever, but then they have zero evidence of like what makes me crazy. Like, at what point did I express that I was having some kind of psychological delusion? There's nothing wrong with me.
I think Lauren Pritchard falls into the category of people who are not well mentally. Hey, hello to Nicholas Krupes. That's my personal assessment, that she is suffering from some sort of mental health affliction. Though I'm not qualified to say what it is, I come to that understanding because there doesn't seem to be a constructed narrative that she's bringing forth. It's these mental and imaginary impressions that veer so closely to schizophrenic delusion that I don't know how else to understand it. The fact that she can say two contradictory statements, but it was weird.
Who is this like nasty child predator overlord? C.W. Chanter. It's not to say that Stephen Cambion's fuck up is excusable. What the fuck is this? What is this cult? You know what it is. You know exactly what it is. He just said it. He just said it. The video posted. It's like the difference between contemplating ordering a real doll and then accidentally discussing it. Do I even need to go any further? I fucking hate these people with a blood-curdling passion. I'm shaking. I fucking hate them. Not because of what they say about me, I could give a shit. Because of who they are as a species, I fucking hate them. They're child predators. They're nasty pieces of shit. They're full-blown fucking psychopaths. And it's evident. And because they want to call me crazy, but they don't want to give any evidence, or they don't want to back up any of their claims, I'm actually going to point out some very specific expressions of the psychopathy that C.W. Chanter clearly has.
It's embarrassing at this point. I mean, this is one thing that I don't like, is that, like, I want people to stop fucking playing pretend. Stop acting like you're NPR. Stop acting like you're MSNBC. Stop acting like this is some sort of thing. It's like little kids playing newspaper. I love the people. I love the people who put in the thing, like the views expressed, run the banner, run that shit all the time. Say fair use a million times like I do, whatever. But what happened last night wouldn't have happened if people knew who the fuck they were talking about. I had no idea who this gal was, but by the end of the night, I did know who it was, and I knew that in another sane, stable reality where people breathed and paused before proceeding, that interview would have never happened, and that would have been fine for life on planet Earth.
So since this is psychological warfare, then allow me. First of all, whether you numbskulls realize it or not, there is nothing wrong with me, mentally, physically, spiritually, or otherwise. Nothing wrong with me in my life whatsoever. I'm not a super soldier. I'm not a victim. I'm not under MK Ultra. I've never endured any kind of strategic trauma. I'm not a satanic ritual abuse victim. I have no vulnerabilities. I'm not a new age love and light victim. I'm not a victim of anything. I don't have any triggers. I got nothing to lose that you can take from me. And that makes me a very dangerous person to these people and their thick heads. Here comes the real wake up. Channels like this and mouthpieces like CW Chanter are only safety zones for you to go to when you want to dislike somebody. You need a cult to fall back on. He says blasphemous things like I have some sort of delusion and I'm not well, but cites no evidence to back up his claims. You would say the material at hand speaks for itself, but you would be lazy and dedicated to it somehow not being true by not looking into it. Your reality is threatened by mine. If this is true, we clearly cannot coexist together much longer. This is end times shit.
Because it is what it is. So I go over here and I say Lauren Pritchard, and this is Lauren Ascension. And the minute I see the word Ascension, I'm like, this is going to be problematic. I see this photo and I'm like, that's interesting. And then I read Baby Mama to a Time Traveler, Michael Alexei Prince, rocket ship. And I'm like, okay. And then I see Austin, Texas, and I say to myself, this is going to be fucked up. I could already fucking tell that this was going to be fucked up beyond all human comprehension because I recognize the name Michael and Prince. And I know because, and I then, I go to the YouTube channel. So that guy in the middle, that's James Casbolt. He is one of these super soldier, Miles Johnson Bases Project super soldier dudes. He's one of the first ones. So, and Lauren Pritchard's Space Mom, I said, I know there's a problem here. So I go through and I start going through some of these videos. Oh, no, here we go. Now she's going to be upset. I guarantee you. Why all the satanic and Luciferian symbolism in the back rooms. Okay. Austin Beer Works, one thing, these debates, TruthSeekers after party. See, this is her being up. This is gonna be crazy. So I'd see this stuff, and I was like, there's gonna be something problematic here. And then, I really kind of knew and understood. I said, then I came across all the James Casbolt thing, and then I saw this stuff about Sarah Rachel Adams, and then it started to make sense of the story of James Casbolt, and I is comparable to Joan of Arc. So I'm like, she's tying herself to James Casbolt. Energy update shifting, and then I see this stuff about kind of a divine insemination. It was crazy. So I said I got to be totally honest. I immediately said, I don't think that Stephen knows what he's getting himself into. When I was speaking to him, I said to him, I said, you know about this James Casbolt connection? And he was like, oh yeah, I heard a little bit about it. And I'm like, well, you're going to want to know just, more than just a little bit about it. I said, because this James Casbolt thing is a little radioactive, especially considering what happened with the interview with Angeline or whatever. So I said, and I said to him, I said, be careful. I said, I said, you're going to have to push back hard on anything because you can't, you don't want to be accused of co-signing any of this bullshit. And I'll tell you what my theory is. My theory is that, you know, either Lauren contacted him or he became aware that Lauren had critical things to say about Sarah Rachel Adams. I know, you know, I subscribe to Steven's channel, so I know that the Sarah Rachel Adams thing is kind of like, you know, big, you know, project that he's pushing on.
And side note, whoever is not, you know, in your child predator cult, you know, for example, Steven, I mean, these grown men can do what they want without permission from you or the cult. I see this time and time again. Man joins cult. Man doesn't realize he joined a cult. Man does something that goes against the cult. Cult tries to shame him for being a bad boy, for making a crappy decision. Like CW Chanter says, not that Stephen Cambion's mistake is excusable. What the motherfuck? This is insanity. This is insane. You were right about one thing, CW. You don't want people interviewing me. And this is why. This is exactly why. You mentioned the preservation of life on Earth. You really think this design is sustainable enough to go on, or are you just hopeful that you can somehow stop this train that is coming at us at 100 miles an hour? The only thing that people can preserve is the spirit through Jesus Christ. Everything else will be restored and or destroyed. If you fall into this cult, if just one person hears this, then it was worth it. The only thing you can preserve in this world, as you know it, is the spirit, is the soul itself. And that is through the bridge that is the Christ. That's all you've got. But I don't think these people are of this world. And I don't think these people plan on going anywhere. I don't think they're people. They don't act like people. They act like something else. Something inhumane. Something that orders real dolls. What the fuck does that mean? Try to finagle anything.
Make it a joke. Jokes.
I hate these fucking people. I want them dead. I hate them with a blood-curdling passion. I want them dead. I say it all the time. I'll say it again. I'll keep on saying it. Because it's gonna happen. I'm not violent. I'm not gonna do it. I don't know who's gonna do it. I'm not encouraging anyone to kill them. But I fucking hate them with a blood-curdling passion. Not because of the shit they say about me, but because of their child predator nature. And their arrogant display of it. And the simple fact that they're doing it. Fucking hate them.
Within short order, I could tell that this woman was not making any sense. Was, in my opinion, suffering under a series of nested delusions, and that the whole video was going to go crazy. Because then Stephen, I think, in my opinion, found himself in this kind of unenviable position where, having learned the lessons from the community response to his last interview, to no one understood that he had a responsibility to push back against stories presented without evidence, especially exceptionally crazy stories like this beer brewery in Austin, Texas is a front for pedophiles or whatever, or that, you know, there's a satanic secret space force program fighters and anything. But then having to do that within the context of talking to a person who's just obviously not mentally well. And there was at one point that, so the evening goes on, and at one point, you know, Stephen highlighted one of my comments in the live chat. And they were talking about Sarah Rachel Adams, you know, then this girl Lauren started accusing Sarah Rachel Adams of being a cyborg. And it's like, you brought this woman on presumably to say things about nice. Here's Jay Roach saying, Lauren admitted that she lives off and pays her bills using donations from her supporters. She's another fraud spinning stories to make $1. I don't think so. I'm going to disagree with one thing, Jay. Jay, let me ask you your honest personal opinion. Do you think that she's mentally well? Do you think that she's mentally well? Because when I think of someone who I'm going to say is another, and I'm not trying to come at you hard. I'm really not trying to come at your game, guns hot. But I just want to put things in context. And I also know that it's hard to sometimes, summarize thoughts perfectly. A person who's suffering from mental health delusions, you might use a lot of words to describe them, but you probably wouldn't, I assume, use the word fraud. And you wouldn't say fraud spinning stories. Do you think that she's mentally well? I think that she was clearly, absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
God's wrath. If you don't at least feel a little bit of God's wrath from time to time, I don't know, maybe you're not meant to. But do you really know what's going on? And when you really understand what's going on in the world, people want to deny that this is primarily a child predator world. They want to avoid the means that actually takes care of the problem and takes care of these fucking assholes, pieces of shit. You're in for a rude awakening.
Here's Jay Roach saying, Lauren admitted that she lives off and pays her bills using donations from her supporters. She's another fraud spinning stories to make it.
This is a lie. I said I do not pay for anything but groceries from donations from channel supporters.
$1. I don't think so. I'm going to disagree with one thing, Jay. Jay, let me ask you your honest personal opinion. Do you think that she's mentally well? Do you think that she's mentally well? Because when I think of someone who I'm going to say,
they were making fun of the fact that I didn't know Steven's name. No, I didn't know Steven's last name. At 26 minutes in, I'm sitting there waiting for some substantial argument. But so far, all I see is a bunch of people gathering in a cult of psychosis because they can't accept the world doesn't revolve around their cognitive dissonance. You're walking each other off a cliff. They wish this interview didn't happen because you lost a few of your grandiose egomania cult members. You say sad as it pertains to me, like, oh, I'm sad. I think you people are fucking pathetic. You're not even people. You're like insane, robotic psychopaths and child predators. What type of institutionalized thinking does this come from? Oh, CW is a lawyer. Well, there it is right there. Your brain undergoes a right-brained only conditioning that beats it into a closed system. Some people would suggest that this is a very psychopathic conditioning.
Lauren Pritchard came to the TruthSeekers channel with nothing to offer except her delusional opinions about the world around her, including Sarah Rachel Adams being a cyborg. Lauren Pritchard has never met James Casbolt. She communicates with him telepathically and psychically. She makes no sense. I asked her questions in the live chat before the show began about what she knew about Sarah and what she knew about James Casbolt and how, and she gave flip-flop contradictory responses. She thinks that James Casbolt can psychically call down, space planes, and he's part of this two brothers fighting Janus project, secret space program, God's army of space thing. There's no reason to believe anything that James Casbolt was, in my opinion, a narcissistic, delusional, self-aggrandizing, habitual liar. an abuser of people around him. He influenced, but you could tell. The James Rink tells a story. They told stories from the Super Soldier meetup or conference in Las Vegas, where all of a sudden James Caswell, people tell the story. They told the story of what happened, and to them it's like, oh my God! All of a sudden we got activated and we got, kidnapped, and we had to do all these operations right there. We should have known better than to all gather in one place. But if you hear the story as a normal person who breathes in and breathes out in the outside world, and has 2 feet planted on the ground, even if you think that there's more to this reality than just this reality around us, you can hear the story and be like, oh, James Caswell took advantage of influenceable people by influencing them.
Somebody spooky said I snapped, and I snapped when Corey Good left Gaia. I have zero affiliation to any of the New Agers. And he goes, I remember she protested on the street proclaiming satanic cults in downtown Austin. Delusional shit, Spooky said. No, I snapped when I physically walked in on a satanic ritual. That was a declaration of war. I was not going to let that slide. And I protested very specific things in very specific locations. They're trying to act like I was just like recklessly, just like downtown Austin, like satanic cults, satanic cults. No. I have zero affiliation with the New Age nutters. I don't really have any affiliation with anybody but James Michael. And you can't put us in a category. We stand in a category on our own. It's an operational relationship. It's not any kind of romantic, whatever they want to say it is. Like, he's the father of the baby. What about parthenogenesis don't you get?
There's no reason to think that Lauren Pritchard. So that's what's so crazy about this whole thing. Not to keep on using that word, and certainly, hopefully, not using that word in any sort of insulting or pejorative way. You have, back in the day, when it was hard to get access to the internet or make content for the internet, there was a natural barrier to people being able to just entirely muck up the world by harnessing the superpower of the internet to take their delusions about reality and broadcast them to the world where they could influence the thoughts of others. But that is gone. And now we are living in this world where anybody with a cell phone can have a YouTube channel. And therefore, whereas these people used to be living their lives amongst people of comparative normalcy who could do things like, there's a problem with cousin Merle, we need to take him to the brain doctor, the people in their lives who they loved. What ends up happening is that these people instead are able to go into this world where they're able to make connections with other people who are similarly afflicted. This is my opinion. I'm not a mental health professional, and therefore avoid the quote unquote well people in their world who have truly have their best interests at heart and would want to limit their involvement with these inner narratives and try and bring these people back to consensus reality. Instead, these people can avoid those relationships almost entirely and find themselves amongst the world of people who are going to tell them not that they're wrong, but that they're right, and that, terrible things.
CW says, oh, it took 5 minutes to debunk her. That's how easy it was. Yeah, because life is pretty easy when you go around dismissing anything that makes you uncomfortable, but it won't last forever. You can't just go around dismissing the things that make you guys uncomfortable. It will not last forever. You will find yourself into some extinction event where it's just you guys and you can't function. The only thing you can preserve is the soul. And through the Spirit of Jesus Christ is your out. I don't know that these people are going to get out, but if just one person in that fucking cult sees that they're in a cult, get out. So then he's quoting how somebody said, Stephen, you cannot make a logical and rational argument with someone who lacks the ability to understand those things. No, I think you've been beat, Stephen. I think CW, I think you've been beat. I beat you. I have the ability to understand that you have some sort of right brain only psychopathic thinking, and you will only accept a reality that falls within your materialistic worldview. That makes you a fucking psychopath. Now, I have both the right and the left brain set of thinking skills. That makes me somebody who has you beat.
Because you can tell from this woman's updates, and I'm not talking about that lady, I'm talking about this Lauren Pritchard girl, that this girl was out in lunch. You know what I mean? Then you can't win. My brother's great. My brother has a phrase, an expression. It used to come up all the time in the context of our father. I would be like, this, that, and the other thing. I'm right. He's wrong for this reason. And my brother would always be like, hey, Ben, you can't beat crazy. Crazy always wins. And what is meant by that, I think, is this. You cannot make a logical argument or a rational plea to an individual who does not have the mental capability and capacity to understand or process those things. You can't try to rationally convince the person who's suffering under extreme paranoid schizophrenic delusions, who is a threat of harm to themselves or others. You don't try to necessarily spend too much time trying to have a logical, reasonable debate with them about why they should, concede to being going to a mental hospital. No, they get 5150. They get involuntarily committed to mental health institutions because that's how it's going to go down.
That is exactly what's going on here, and there's no denying it. And then someone says, Lauren's ain't that hot, but she's nothing to write to Mars about. Go back to Mars. Are you people from Mars? Go back to Mars. Nothing to write to Mars about? After CW says, ordering a real doll, it's like contemplating ordering a real doll, but then accidentally discussing it. What does that mean? Who and what are you people? At the very least, you're fucking psychopaths. At the very least, you have some very strange right brain only form of psychopathy in which I have you beat because I have both the right and the left brain. I come from no form of institutionalized thinking. I come from no form of organized trauma. I'm not a victim of any kind. I don't fall into any of your groups. None of the new age groups. I don't fall into the super soldier group. I'm not a super soldier. And you people can't stand it.
So it is what it is. And like I said, I hope this doesn't come off like I'm bashing Steven, because I think Steven's a hell of a guy. There are people saying the interview was entertaining. But be careful, because I also want to say this, is that, and this is for me as well as for you guys, be careful of what you like and be careful what you let yourself encourage, because there's plenty of times the day after, there's plenty of Monday mornings where you can wake up and say to yourself, man, I had a lot of fun last night. That was awesome. Holy shit, what the hell did we do? Just because it can be entertaining to watch somebody melt down in public doesn't necessarily mean that it's feeding the best wolf inside you to do that. You know what I mean? And I'm not, when I say these things, I am not from the outside looking in, judging you people who do that, who read People magazine or pay attention to the Britney Spears documentary, that while it's making this lovely case for, isn't it such a shame what happened to Britney? How mean all the press were to her, how mean all the stories of the journalists were to her, how she was hounded by the paparazzi all day and day long, treating her like an animal in a zoo. as we make this documentary, essentially repeating that process of treating her like an animal in the zoo. And also, as we play this game of telling you, oh my God, you're so good to watch this documentary about how bad people treated her back in the 90s. You know, those people who were fucking you watching this documentary film right now. You know, it's a delusion and it's an illusion.
And that is scary. And that is sad.